Hello, and welcome back to Learn My Heritage with me. I am your host, Mary Bennett, and this podcast is brought to you by the Hózhó Path Renewal. I'm a Diné woman who is reclaiming what was interrupted one step at a time. Because of assimilation and general disruption, there are many of us out there that are finding our way back to the teachings that weren't fully passed down. This podcast is my own personal reclamation, spoken out loud so that it will root deeper within me. These teachings that I share are all publicly available. I'm not sharing ceremony. I'm not speaking for all Diné people. I will be weaving in some Diné Bazad, which is the Navajo language. I didn't grow up with it, so it won't be perfect. And that's part of this journey. Jogo nash do. I'm walking in beauty. And if you're reconnecting too, you're in the right space. Let's begin. Hello, and welcome back to Learn My Heritage with me. I'm your host, Mary Bennett, and this is a space where I learn the teaching, stories, and history of my Diné heritage and share where I'm learning so that it roots deeper within me. I was raised away from the Navajo Nation, without language and without many of the teachings being passed directly to me. But that interruption did not begin with me. It came through boarding schools, assimilation, experiences of the generations before me, including my father, who was punished for speaking our language. I don't come here claiming to know everything, and I do not speak for all Diné people. I come here as someone who's learning, as someone who's remembering, and I invite you to come and sit beside me while I do. In the last episode, we talked about Tadadin Ke'e the corn pollen way. We learned about pollen as life, continuation, prayer, and the path we are meant to walk. We also looked at the relationship between the earth beneath us and the sky above us. And this episode continues that journey through the teaching about the settlement. The people needed a place where life could take root, but settlement was not arriving somewhere and putting up a shelter. It was the creation of life's center, a place that is shaped through thought, relationship, sacred language, and the intention to live in Hózhó. At the center of the story is the first fork stick hóóghan, and Coyote is there too. And as told in the settlement teaching that I've been studying, the people had reached a time when a settlement needed to be created, a home needed to be created. The first man, first woman, and talking God. So Coyote was the one that proposed the hóóghan. But then the others asked, what is the hóóghan? And that question's great because it reminds us that the hóóghan was not already an ordinary object with an ordinary name. Its meaning had to be shown. It had to be imagined. It had to be planned. It had to be brought into form. So Coyote went out to scout and look for the knowledge and the materials that they would need. And during that search, he encountered the Beaver People. This is a part that connects with an earlier story involving the mourning dove and the oak leaf. The Beaver people had knowledge of building and making a home that could hold and protect life. Their own dwelling came back to a prototype, something Coyote could observe and carry back to others. The Beaver people did not only offer the idea, they helped provide the logs. Cha Hastin, beaver, cut the trees. Nath Itso, the lion, sometimes known as a predator, a large predator, approved the construction. So even in the beginning, the hóóghan didn't emerge as from one person acting alone. Coyote proposed it. The others questioned and were curious and listened. The Beaver people shared their knowledge, and Lion gave approval. The holy people helped meaning into what was being created. So the first lesson is already there. Home is created through relationship. Coyote then demonstrated how the fork stick hóóghan should be built. 3 main forked poles were brought together and joined near the top. Other poles would be added around them, and the structure would be eventually covered with earth. Joining poles were more than supports. The teaching connects it to partnership, the way a woman and a man join their lives, and their responsibilities. Nothing stands as a whole structure alone. Strength comes through how those parts meet, how they lean together, and carry what rests upon them. Then Coyote did something that makes the teaching feel alive. He sat on the ground facing east, used his own seated body to demonstrate the shape of the hóghan. The structure reflected a living human form. The sides held the body. The opening above related to the crown of the head, and the doorway faced east, toward dawn, before first light. The place of the fire became the center, the heart and life of the home. Coyote did not hand them a drawing. He made the pattern himself. And the way that I understand the teaching of the hóghan was that it was not designed as a box to place around human life. Human life was a reflection within the design. The body, the home, the land, and the sky were brought into the relationship. So the doorway of the hóghan faces east. It welcomes Hózhó, the dawn, the beginning of the new day. Light enters from the direction of beginning, thought, and possibility. And in the teaching, there is also a dawn curtain at the entrance. The doorway is simply not an opening used to come and go. It's a point of relationship between the life inside the home and the world beyond it. And what comes through the doorway matters. Light comes through it. People enter through it. Food, stories, responsibilities, prayers, and relationships. They all pass through it. And each morning, the people inside are reminded that another beginning has arrived. Today, many of us wake up immediately reaching for our phones. Before our feet touch the ground, we may already be receiving demands, news, messages, and other people's urgencies. The east-facing doorway reminds me of my daily routine, how I wake up with light in my face first thing. I breathe, and I decide how I want to walk through the day. The settlement teaching describes the hóghan through a 5-part design. It is echoed in the 5 fingers of a human hand and in the human body. The number and pattern are not separate from creation. They show how one design can be mirrored across life. And I'm sure that you too have noticed this theme, this pattern again and again while learning in Diné teachings. What exists in the sky is reflected upon the earth. What exists in the land is reflected in the home. What exists in the home is reflected in our body. The teaching isn't asking us to pull each symbol apart and treat it as if it's an isolated fact. It's asking us to notice the relationship. The doorway receives the dawn. The supporting poles give strength. The earth covering gives shelter and protection. The smoke opening allows the home to breathe, and it keeps connection with the sky. And the fire brings warmth, light, nourishment, and life. The people bring memory, responsibility, story, prayer. Separately, these could look like materials or features, but together with intention, they become a living center. The building of the hóghan was not complete simply because the poles were standing. Holy people were a part of placing the deeper order within it. The construction related to the 4 directions, the 4 times of the day, the sacred colors, the precious stones and materials connected with these directions. The hóghan became a better place where the larger order of creation could be remembered through everyday life. The east carries dawn and beginning. The south carries movement and growth of daytime. The west carries evening and the completion of what has been lived. And the north carries night, rest, and reflection. Talking God gave the Diné sacred language, the language of the corn pollen, and the language of the Nitsáhákees Hózhó. That means that the people were not only given a structure in which to live, they were given a way to speak about and towards the life they were creating. Words were not placed outside of the building process. Language was a part of it. And that makes me think about the words that are spoken within your home. Do our words make people around us feel protected or uncertain? Do they bring clarity or confusion? Do they teach children respect for themselves and others? And do they help create the life that we say that we want? But the people continued the teaching through the language that they carry inside. The creation of the hóghan also carries the Diné process of learning and living. Nitsáhákees, which means thinking, na'ata, planning, lina, which means living or putting the plan into action, si hasin, which means reflection and assurance. Before the home existed, there was a need and a thought. Then the plan came, scouting, gathering, sharing of knowledge, and the preparing of the materials. Then came living action. The poles were placed. The earth was added. The doorway was formed, and the fire was brought to the center. And then came reflection, understanding what was created, blessing the home, considering that life would now flow through it. These are not 4 steps we finish and leave behind. They form a cycle, because reflection leads back to thought. What we learned becomes a part of the next plan. We begin again, but we begin with more understanding. And that is different from the way that we are often expected to live now. We are pushed to act quickly, to hurry and get the task done, and to move on. We don't always leave space to ask whether what we actually created supports our lives. Hózhó gives us that space back. Did it work? Does what I built felt the way I thought that it would? Is it sustaining life? Does something need to be changed? Reflection isn't failure. It's a part of creating with intention. Once the physical hóóghan was formed, fire was placed within it. Fire is described as the heart and the life of the home. It warms people. It gives light. It helps prepare their food. And it creates a center around which a family can gather. And this is where the word settlement has deeper meaning for me. The people did not merely build the walls and call the work finished. They placed life at the center. The home was blessed. Movement began at the doorway and continued clockwise. Tadadin could be used in blessing the posts of the home. The people reflected upon their goals, the life ahead, and the responsibilities connected with this new beginning. The prayer was for good thoughts, wise planning, a blessed path, and harmony with the land and nature. The first hóóghan begin, the hóóghan song, was created within the Hózhó, connecting the home with a blessing way and with the intention that life inside it move in beauty and balance. So the settlement did not end when the last pole was placed. It became complete through blessing, language, relationship, and the life people chose to tend there. The hóóghan became the place where children learned long before learning was separated into classrooms. They listened to stories. They watched the food being prepared. They saw how responsibilities were carried. They learned how relatives treated one another, how prayers were spoken, and how daily life moved with the land and the seasons. The home was a center from which their understanding moved outward. Our home still teaches this way. Children learn from what they see as practice, not only what we tell them. They learn whether rest is allowed. They learn how conflict is handled. They learn whether harm is repaired or ignored. They learn what matters by watching what receives our attention. So the question is not whether our homes teach. The question is, what are they teaching? And this is where the settlement teaching becomes deeply personal for me. I am creating, planning, building what I want my life to flow through and relax into. Everything within the hóóghan was created with intent, an intention to live in Hózhó. And that is how I want to rebuild my life too. I can decide what direction I want my life to face. I can decide what I want to welcome through the doorway. I can decide what belongs at the center. I can choose what will warm and sustain me. Understanding the hóóghan as a reflection of a seated human body also makes me think about the home within my body, the body I carry. I hear my body differently. I see my purpose more clearly. Most of us do not live in a traditional hóóghan, but we can still carry its values into the homes that we live now. We can begin with and ask, what are we truly trying to create? And we can use na hata to plan with purpose instead of only reacting to urgency. And we can move into lina and practice to plan our lives daily. We can make space for hózhó and honestly reflect whether it is supporting life. We can also look at our own centers. What's this at the center of my home and of my life right now? Is it fear, conflict, work, survival, constant urgency? Or have I made room for warmth, nourishment, family, prayer, creativity, purpose, and rest. We can become more thoughtful about what we allow to cross our doorway. Not only objects, but relationships, conversations, media, and energy. We can even create one small space where our body knows it's safe to soften. A chair near a window, a table where people gather without phones, a morning prayer, a candle, a walk at dawn. And we can remember that no single practice creates Hózhó. The teaching lives in the connection. Through connected action, body connected to spirit, people connected to place, home connected to land, healing connected to purpose. So the one thing that I'm taking with me is that everything is designed with intent, and that each element receives its meaning through its connected whole. Coyote did not build the hóóghan alone. The Beaver People shared knowledge and materials and cut the trees. Lion approved the work. Holy people brought sacred order and language. The poles supported one another. The doorway received the dawn, the new beginning. The opening connected the home to the sky, and fire brought life to the center. The people brought relationship and responsibility. Together, these created a place where life could be lived in Hózhó. Thank you for tuning into Learning My Heritage with me. This podcast is a work of the Hózhó Path Renewal, where we begin awareness into action through Indigenous education, healing, and personal growth, community action and advocacy, and support for future generations, and our expanding work in justice, family safety, and healing. You can continue walking the journey by joining the Hózhó Path Renewal newsletter, supporting the foundation, sharing this podcast, or attending one of our community events, including We Run for Them, our Missing and Murdered and People Awareness Run, happening on Thanksgiving. Each time we learn, remember, and share, we help carry something forward. Until next time, walk in beauty. Thank you for being here with me today and walking this path, this journey. If this resonates with you, please leave a comment and share your thoughts. I hope that you continue to walk this journey with me. Make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe to make sure that you stay in tune with all the latest episodes. And if you feel called, share this with someone who is also reconnecting to themselves and to their roots. I walk in beauty. I'll see you next episode.